Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
Hi, how are you, everyone? Everyone is okay?
Yes, Prof.
Great, Prof.
Yes,
Alhamdulillah.
Prof. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, semua sehat-sehat.
How about you, Prof?
All right, thank you. Sekarang kesehatan belajar jaga. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I believe today you will learn about the how we write background of the study, and also how we cite others' work. Okay, they are very important in the sense that your background will reveal how you look at your research, how you can justify that your research is important to do. Okay, and then the second one, you have to avoid plagiarism. That is why you have to cite others' work very well, and then you will we will also discuss about that. Okay, first of all, we will discuss about the research background. Okay, I believe that every one of you has done such a writing in your educational research assignment last time, but the what is the draft should be revised, and I believe that there should be an extensive revision for all parts of the draft, starting from the background or the introduction. So today we are going to discuss about what should be in the background. So I mentioned just now that by the end of the session, you are expected to be able to write research background appropriately and to quote and cite others' work appropriately. This is to avoid the plagiarism. Now we'll start from background. What should be the content of the introduction, including the background? So you have to be able to specify the point, the topic of the study. Okay, for example, if you are doing research on vocabulary, you have to be very clear in the beginning what you mean by vocabulary. So description and definition of the variable should be presented in the beginning of our proposal. Then you have to be able to explain why the topic is relevant or interesting. Okay. The what is the interesting point in the background is that you can show the reader that the issue that you are going to investigate is really interesting and probably is very relevant to your readers. They are looking forward to see in the result of the study because they are interested and there is some kind of relevance to their work. Okay. And then the next one, you have to be able to explain how the analysis relate to the problem. We mean the analysis is the literature that you have read. Okay, you have to be able to put in the background what the previous studies said about the problem. Okay. The next one would be the ability to specify the exact questions or hypotheses. At the end of the background session, you will put forward the questions or the research problem. And then the most important one is how is your study relate to the previous work in the field and how it is expected to benefit the profession. So the significance of your study and also the research gap you have to show in the background. Your literature review should be extensive enough in order that you can show that your study is really important. And then you usually in some institution it's also good to what is to set forward the what you call the structure of the content of the proposal. So what is the content of the proposal beside the background, the literature review, and the method in detail is also put forward in the background. But this depends on the guide, what is the guideline for writing a thesis in our institution. You can take a look at the guides that provided by the UNM. Okay, next we'll come to the main part, the background of the study. Usually, uh, we as researcher, especially the beginning researcher, excuse me, are find it very difficult to establish the context of the research. This can only be done when we have reviewed some studies that have been done by others previously. So by looking at what they have found about the issue, then we can establish the context where we are within the previous studies. Okay, so it's important to do extensive and comprehensive literature review before you write your background. The next is to explain why the particular topic is important, essential to understand the main aspect of the study. So once again, the importance of what is the variable that you are investigating and the relationship between variables should be expressed in the background in order to ensure the reader that the issue that we are investigating is really important. And then you have to be able to justify the need for conducting the study and summarizes what the study aims to achieve. So saying the objective of the study is very important in order that the readers can see that when you are done, when you have completed the study, then they will have the answer to what they have in mind when they are reading the issue or the background of the study. Okay, next. Sorry. Some connection problem. Okay. Um, I'm sorry for the unstable connection. Now let's continue. So the important points here is that you have to be able to show the reader that your topic is really important to be investigated and they are looking forward to see in the result of your study. You, in your background, you have to highlight the main development in the of the research topic. So that once again, the review of literature is very important, especially the studies that have been done before. The previous study is very important in order that we can justify where we are now in terms of the topic that we are going to investigate. By that way, also we can see the main gap. Usually the examiner asks about the gaps, the research gap. So what have been done, what we have already know about the topic, and what you want to know. So the gap will be in between what you already know and then what you want to know. So where we are going to go, and then in between that will be the gap. Okay. Uh, what is known about the broad topic? So once again, when you are talking about, for example, vocabulary and reading, as some of the topics says that the relationship between the vocabulary and reading ability, then you have to find out what people say about the relation between the two, what has been done about that. And then, of course, you will also look at the research about the level of education where the study was conducted, and also that will compare to yours, where you are going to conduct your study, whether you are going to conduct your study at junior secondary school, senior secondary school, or college level, or other type of setting. And that also will make a difference between your study and the previous studies. Now, what are the gaps or the missing links that need to be addressed? So once again, that we already know about the topic based on what the previous studies have found out. And then we need to go somewhere. We want to do something because we need to know that further. So we need to know further will be the target of our study. And then there is a gap between what we have already know right now based on the previous studies and then the point where or the target where we are going to go, and that will be the gap. And then the significance of the study, usually we are talking about how will the finding will help or will benefit the students, the teacher, the policymakers. So we can talk about that. Maybe the findings will also contribute to the development of the theory in our field, theory in language teaching or in second language acquisition. And then you have to be able to imagine what would be the answer to the questions will be. You have to be able to hypothesize. If this is the issue that you're going to investigate, then expect to find out what. That is the hypothesis. So before you do the research, actually you already have in mind the answer to your question would be something like this. That is the hypothesis. And then after you do the study, then you'll have the real answer to your questions. So the hypothesis is something expected to be the answer to your questions. Okay, next. There are some differences between background and literature review. In your chapter 2, yeah, and then in the background, even though you may use the same literature that you read, you mention about the literature in the background and also in the literature review section in chapter 2. The first one, the background should be in the beginning of our proposal, while the literature review comes next, will come to in the next section. And then in the background, we should provide the context of the study, meaning that we show where we are now in the topic, in the variable, in the issue that we are going to investigate. While in the literature review, we provide a comprehensive overview of broad and specific literature in the field. So in some cases, in the background, we mention a lot of studies, but we don't need to mention about numbers or specific findings of those, but we compare their findings from one to another. While in the literature review, we may put the study in detail, especially when we are talking about the most relevant studies to ours. Usually, we even mention the methodology that the studies use, and the subject they are involved in their study. So more detail are found in the literature review, while in the background, we do not mention detail like that. And then in the background, we also should provide historical perspective and highlight the significance of the study. Historical perspective means what had been done from the early years until now. So what had been done about that. When you are talking about a variable and then you discuss about the definition of the variable, you may want to to start with the definition from the earliest stage of the variable. So based on the years. While in the literature review, the progress of the topic should be shown, and then highlight. Yeah, we highlight everything, including the gaps between one study and the other, and between those studies and ours. And then in the background, once again, it is brief. We do not elaborate the literature that we have reviewed, we have read. We just summarize it. There might be a lot of studies that we have read, and then we try to compare their findings, whether they are having the same findings or they have contradictive findings. And then based on that, we can put in between our own research. When there is a contradictory findings among them, and then we can justify that there is still inconclusive findings on this issue. That is why it needs further research. So it's very important to summarize those studies that you have read, the articles that you have read, what they found, and then you try to justify their findings, and then you compare to your own what you are going to investigate actually. And then in the literature review, usually we put forward detail of each of the articles that we read, or similar articles are put forward or are elaborated based on their findings. So if you have, for example, 3 articles that have similar findings, in detail, you may discuss that in terms of the level of education, the subject that they are dealing with, and also the methodology they use. Maybe the 3 of them are discussed in detail. While in the background, you don't need to go in detail, but you summarize what they have found, and then you try to compare one another. Okay, here are some of what we call the comparison between background and literature review. So you have to remember that literature review is done from the beginning of our topic findings until the end of our writing of thesis, until the end of the completion of the thesis. We always read literature, and then it doesn't mean that when you have done the study, you have collected data, you don't need to read literature. You still need to read further literature because there might be some new findings, new studies that comes up in the literature, and then you need to compare yours with the most recent one. So literature review is always in progress from the beginning to the end of our thesis writing. Okay, when you compare the background and literature review, you can see here, the background comes in the beginning part of our proposal, and while the literature review will come following the background. That is the position in the proposal. And then when we are talking about the content of the background and literature review, so what does it present? And the background will say that it presents the context of the study. Uh, in the background, we are trying to show the context within which the study will be conducted. While in the literature review is a critical analysis of existing literature. So it's more detailed, of course, because you analyze critically each article that you read. And then the purpose. What is the purpose of background and the literature review? The background will highlight the significance of the study. And then the literature review will evaluate the progress of knowledge in the field, in the area, or in the topic that you are going to investigate. While in the background is only a highlight or summary, in the background is an elaboration of each of the detail. So there is always a relationship between literature review and the background. The difference is that here, in the background, it is always concise. It is a short, brief, and a kind of summary of the studies that we have read. While in the literature review, you have to go further, elaborate more about the each of the article that you read. When you are asking about what does literature review do and in comparison to background, and then we say that in the background, we introduce the topic in context and explain how it leads up to the research problem. This will be showing the gap, okay? Once again, the literature review will show us where we are now in about the topic. And then in the background, you also try to set up your objective, where you want to go. And the difference between where we are now and where we want to go is the gap. So this is what we call the gap, okay? While the literature review will help us to do this, okay? Without an extensive reading of articles or what have been done in the field, in the issue that we are going to investigate, it's very difficult to show the gap. So you have to read more about the empirical articles, what people have done or the previous studies. What does it involve? Background and literature review. In the background, while we are introducing the topic in the broad sense, it also narrows down the topic in order that we can finally show the problem, and finally we put forward questions that we are going to answer in our study. So starting from a broad problem, and then you narrow down the issue into more specific problem, and based on this, you can put forward, you can formulate the research questions. While in the literature review, actually we analyze the research to show what research has been done on the topic. So once again, without the literature review, it's impossible to show the gap and also to ask questions. So based on what have people done, what we have already know, then we can also put forward our own questions that we want to know further from what we have already known right now. Okay. And then when talking about how long the background will be and how long the literature review will be, the difference is that the background should not be too short or should also be not too long. Okay, it should be appropriate. For example, in between 3 to 7 page or maybe 4 to 7 pages will be okay. It will clear enough. So maybe 5 pages will be very appropriate. While in the literature review will be depending on how many concepts we discuss and how many studies we have reviewed. So if you are dealing with several variables, the literature review will be also longer because we will discuss all the variables in terms of the definition and the relationship among the variables and also the studies that have been done on each of the variables. So the literature review will be longer. Okay, some experts show about this, what we should do and what we should not do in writing the background. Here is what you should do. Explain the importance of your research topic, definitely yes. And you don't need to write a background that is too long or too short. Too short will not show the importance and the gap in the field, in the topic. So it should be appropriate, sufficient enough to show the importance and to show the gap, what had been done and what we want to achieve. In the background, we talk about the main development in the research area that we are going to investigate. So once again, what has been done will show the development. Um, in the background, you should not ambiguous about your writing. Usually, if you are not able to summarize whether the previous findings are similar or different one another, then you will be ambiguous about that. Whether you are going to agree with one research or you are going to to confront or to refute other research studies, other research studies. So you have to able to summarize the studies and then you can justify whether you are going to agree with some of them and disagree with others. Usually, in doing the literature review, the expert also mentioned about to be critical. So you have to criticize the studies in terms of several aspects like their findings, their methodology, their instrument, and any aspect of their studies. Okay, next, the other do's and don'ts are mention the missing links or the gaps in your research area that need to be addressed. So once again, this is the important one. Once again, you have to show the gaps. Otherwise, your research might be a kind of replication. You duplicate other study. So you have to show the difference, where the difference is, and you show that we already know this, and then I want to know more. I want to know this, the other one, and then the distance between what you already know and the one that I want to know is the gap. If you want, if you are able to show that, that means that you already mentioned the missing links or the gaps. And then you should be organized. Uh, Disorganized means in some cases you try to show what people have done, and then in the beginning you show what the people already done. For example, the relationship between vocabulary and reading, and some researchers has found the significant positive correlation And then you talk about that one research in the beginning, and then you talk another one in the next paragraph, for example, about some research which found the insignificant correlation between those two variables. And then you move again to the next one, which says about the significant correlation. So you have to group it together, and then you mention in one paragraph or two paragraph of the same studies, and then you try to contrast them with other studies in the next paragraph. So that will be a kind of a good organization. So do not be disorganized. And then you have to be able to highlight the main and the relevant aspect of your study. Uh, Usually the students start with a very broad statement, even though the student wants to do research on vocabulary and reading only. The background starts with the very broad statement like English as an international language. That's too broad. It's very difficult to make some kind of chain. And then we try to link between the English as an international language and vocabulary. So you may have to start from the variable that you are going to investigate. This is what I mean that you start with relevant, the most relevant issue that in your study, and then the variable you already know, you had better start with that. Do not mention about the broad things like the English as an international language, and or you mentioned about English has four skills. Actually, you had better start with your own variable vocabulary, for example, and then you mentioned about the importance of vocabulary in supporting the achievement of the four skills. So do not start with English has four skills, but you start you start with your own variable, and then uh, you show that the importance of your variable in supporting the achievement of the variables of the skills, for example. Okay, that is what we mean by relevant themes. Okay, and then next one, significance of your study. Okay, how your findings later will contribute to the development of our field. Okay, we mentioned about the parties that will benefit our findings, the learners, the teachers, the material writers, the policymakers, and the development of theory itself in our field. So there are many aspects, many parties that might benefit our findings later. You have to mention that in order that we are sure that your topic is really important and will have some kind significant contribution to our field. Okay. And then organize your finding in a chronological order. So when you are uh, doing literature review and then you want to show the summary of your literature review in the background, you may have some ways of organizing the summary. One of them is by chronological order. So you start from the findings in the early years and then you come to the most recent one. That is what we call the chronological order. This also shows the development of the topic in our field that you are going to investigate. But then you do not have to elaborate that in detail of the literature that you have reviewed. Okay, it's a summary. And then the last one, in terms of saying everything, your ideas in the background or throughout your proposal, and then you have to be able to articulate your ideas in a clear and concise manner. Okay, clear and concise meaning that when we read your sentences, we can easily understand what you mean. So that means that your idea is clear. Okay. This is also important. What I mean by concise manner. when you have a lot of ideas in your mind, you have to be able to break it down into pieces, and then you express the pieces of ideas one by one. Do not mix all those ideas in one or two sentences, and then the sentences will be very long, and it's very difficult to understand. Okay, so be simple in expressing your ideas. Try to express your ideas one by one. Support your ideas with supporting ideas, and then move on to another ideas, and then provide the supporting ideas again. So it is easy to understand, to follow your ways of thinking. And then this is if you are able to do some kind of building a story around the central theme of your research. Usually when you are presenting the literature review summary in chronological order, and then the reader will see how the issue develops from year to year until now. So that means that you're building a story that will show the reader how you ensure the reader that this issue is important to investigate, looking at the development of the issue from year to year until now. Okay, so this is the theory that might belong to what we call the background. Okay, let's see some example here. How I will show you what happens to one of the study I have done. This is only an example. Okay, this is how we write the background. The topic is teaching children to question what they read, an attempt to improve reading comprehension through training in a cognitive learning strategy. So the idea here is that when you have a text that the student will read to understand, and then we train them to ask questions about the text. For example, you take out one sentence and then you start making questions, and the answer can be found in the sentence. For example, Eko has breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning. And then you train the students to make questions. When the answer is 7 o'clock, what will be the questions? And then you try to give them example. When does Eko usually have breakfast? And the answer is at 7 o'clock in the morning. And then if the answer is have breakfast, the question will be, what does Eko do at 7 o'clock in the morning? So this is the idea of this actually the topic. And then what would be in the background? So here is the structure of the background. In the beginning, of course, you will show the importance of reading, either reading and the you can shuffle this. The second one might be the first. It doesn't matter. You show the relationship between reading ability and the working place out there, employment demands. The more able you read, then the more likely that you are having a good career in the workplace later. Okay. Okay, so this is the very important, and there has been a lot of research on this. Okay. The relationship between reading and workplace. That is to show the importance of reading ability. Okay, and while you are doing this, and then you may also show the level of reading ability of students. And there have been a lot of studies on this, including around the world, of course. You can also take the reading ability by the, what is the PISA report that every 2 years conducted all around the world. And then you can see the level of reading ability in every country, for example. And then the second one is the relationship between reading and curricular skill and successes. So there has been a lot of research showing the relationship between reading ability and success in a lot of areas of study, reading and mathematics, reading and science, social science studies, and so forth. Reading and achievement in school, actually. And it shows that the, the more able the students read, the more likely that they are going to be successful in their study. And the less able the students' reading ability, the more likely that they are going to be lag behind, what they usually call underachiever. So reading and curricular skill and successes, there has been a lot of studies on that, and you try to show that that will ensure the reader that reading ability, reading comprehension is really important, either in the workplace or in the in school. Okay. Okay. Next, the other thing that the importance of this reading, the importance of the study, so can be mentioned here. The relation between the reading ability and number of dropout students from junior, from elementary school to junior and secondary, junior and senior secondary schools, for example. There is a significant correlation between reading ability and dropouts. The less able someone to read, the more likely that they are going to be dropped out from school. Okay. Another study also mentioned here about the high expenditure of a company when their employee are unable to read well. There is a very good explanation about that, how the company lost a lot of things because the employees are not able to read well. For example, how to assemble an engine, for example. When there is something wrong in the assembling, then the machine will be damaged and the company will lose a lot. And then there has been a lot of program for reading improvement, and we can mention that. But then there are also studies mentioned about what we haven't already known yet, and it needs some kind of further research. Here are some studies about that. And then in the next section of the background, you will have one or two paragraphs leading the readers to your problem. So after explaining three parts above, and then you like to lead your readers to your problem, to your research questions later. So to build up the what is the background of your study based on the explanation above, you have to explain that, and then you try to find out the technique, explaining the technique that you are going to present in your study, why you consider it as one that might help the readers to be more fluent readers, for example. And then you are talking about what expert says and what study says about importance of the technique that you are going to use in the study. Okay. So here is very important in one or two paragraphs as the transitional paragraph to your problem later. So after explaining the importance of reading ability and its relationship between workplace and reading and successful in school, And then now you are talking about the strategy that you are going to implement in your study, and you cite the aspects and also studies that have been done related to the strategy that you are selecting, you have chosen, and that will lead you to the problem. Okay, why you want to do that? So this would be the last part of the background. So we say a problem statement. The easiest here. You try to build up in one paragraph or maybe more than one paragraph about the problem, and then you finally you formulate the research questions based on the problem that you have described in one paragraph here. It says not only making question, but also vocabulary might help them. So there must be some kind of vocabulary exercises or vocabulary builder, vocabulary training to master vocabulary related to the text that they are going to read. And then you train them how to understand the text by asking the students to ask what they have read, probably sentence, paragraph, and the whole text that they have read. They have to be able to ask questions. If they are able to ask questions about the text they are reading, that means that they understand. So they ask questions and then they can answer the question. In terms of level of comprehension, might be from literal one to inferential to critical questions. That means that they understand the text because they are able to write questions and answer the question they have read. They have written. Okay, so this is the way that I try to write the background of the study that I usually do in my research. Okay, if you have any comment or question so far about this? Any questions or comments? The point is that it is impossible to write a good background without doing a lot of articles, reading on articles that relate to our topic. So you have to collect to find out some or as many as possible articles related to your topic, and then you read those articles, including textbook related to your variable, and then you will finally be able to write a good background as I discussed just now.
Sir, Mister, mau bertanya.
Ya, Mas Ita. Ya.
Biasanya, Sir, itu kalau penelitian yang menggunakan batasan istilah pada penelitian apa, Sir?
Bahasan istilah maksudnya?
Batasan istilah, Sir, kayak ada batasan pengertiannya yang dia berikan juga biasa di latar belakang, Sir.
Ya, semua, karena kamu punya variabel dan variabel yang kau maksud itu harus dijelaskan di awal. Jadi seperti tadi yang berkaitan dengan reading, maka reading itu di awalnya sudah dijelaskan. Apa yang dimaksud dengan reading ya? Jadi kemampuan reading yang seperti apa yang dituntut untuk bisa berhasil di lapangan kerja maupun di sekolah. Pasti sudah ada di awalnya sudah dijelaskan pengertian dari reading yang diinginkan supaya bisa sukses di pendidikan di sekolah maupun di dunia kerja. Tetap harus ada. Biasanya yang dijelaskan itu adalah teori ya. Jadi konsep yang berkaitan dengan variabel yang kita teliti secara teori yang diungkap oleh para ahli yang biasa ditemukan di buku-buku teks. Jadi kutipan kita itu mengenai definisi vocabulary misalnya itu pasti dari ahli. Tapi itu adalah definisi teori, jadi theoretical definition atau conceptual definition. Nanti akan dibedakan dengan kalau tadi mau mengukur kemampuan kosakatanya, maka ada definisi operasionalnya. Ya, jadi definisi operasional itu berbeda dengan definisi teori. Nah, di bagian awal itu, di background, yang kita gunakan adalah deskripsi, pengertian, atau definisi teori dari variabel yang kita teliti. Jadi setiap penelitian kalian pasti ada variabelnya, itu harus disebut di bagian awal. Bila,
Thank you.
ya, bisa langsung dibuka dengan kata-kata variabel kita. Misalnya kata vocabulary atau kata reading itu di bagian awal dari paragraf kita di background mungkin sudah langsung mengatakan bahwa sudah banyak penelitian yang dilakukan yang melihat hubungan antara kosakata dan kemampuan penguasaan kosakata dan kemampuan membaca pemahaman. Barulah mulai kita membahas. Jadi setelah kita mulai dengan itu, boleh mulai dengan apa yang dimaksud dengan penguasaan kosakata, apa yang dimaksud dengan kemampuan membaca. Baru di paragraf berikutnya kita sudah membahas penelitian-penelitian yang kita sebut itu. Ya. Boleh juga langsung dengan definisinya ya. Misalnya kosakata menurut Sia adalah apa? Dan kosakata ini merupakan ya ada yang menyebutnya nih as of flesh, diumpamakan sebagai darah dalam tubuh manusia. Jadi hanya bisa hidup kalau ada vocabulary. Dia analogikan seperti itu. Siapa Kirin namanya itu. Ways with words ada di situ di bukunya disebutkan itu. Jadi dia membuat definisi kemudian dia menjelaskan pentingnya vocabulary itu dalam menguasai keterampilan berbahasa, khususnya dalam membaca. Karena dia mau meneliti membaca, maka dia khususkan dalam membaca. Barulah mulai dibahas apa saja yang sudah ditemukan yang melihat sumbangan vocabulary terhadap kemampuan keterampilan berbahasa itu. Seperti itu. Jangan memulai dengan hal yang sangat luas. Dan ini ada yang saya lihat masih ada yang memulai dengan pernyataan yang sangat luas ya. Bahasa Inggris itu sebagai bahasa internasional dan seterusnya itu kan sulit sekali untuk bisa menyambung dengan pembahasan kosakata. Biasanya seperti ada yang hilang ya. Langsung membahas kosakata di paragraf ketiga setelah membahas tentang bahasa Inggris sebagai bahasa internasional yang penting. Akhirnya ada yang hilang di antaranya itu. Jadi lebih baik langsung saja ke variabel yang mau diteliti. Oke, saya kira itu Mas Ita. Yang lain kalau ada komen atau pertanyaan?
Saya Prof.
Ya, silakan Rahma.
Ya, Prof. Saya ingin menyambung tadi dari pertanyaannya Mas Ita, Prof, tentang batasan masalah yang ada di rumusan masalah, Prof.
Ya.
Biasanya saya kalau buat proposal, Prof, itu enggak ada batasan masalahnya. Jadi kalau biasa masalahnya terlalu luas begitu, Prof, lebar, enggak fokus pada masalah apa yang mau saya teliti, Prof. Jadi pertanyaan saya, apakah itu batasan masalah harus memang Prof ada di situ di rumusan masalah, Prof, atau enggak harus nih, Prof? Terima kasih.
Di dalam panduan itu yang disebutkan scope of the research itu apa lingkup penelitian kita itu di mana saja. Jadi kalau mau membatasi masalah itu biasanya ada dua hal kalau di karya tulis ilmiah yang biasa disebut itu. Yang pertama disebut limitation of the study. Jadi limitation itu peneliti sendiri yang membatasi dirinya. Misalnya dia ingin meneliti tentang kemampuan membaca anak. dia batasi hanya pada kemampuan membaca literal dan kemampuan membaca inferensial. Dia tidak meneliti tentang kemampuan membaca kritis misalnya. Jadi peneliti sendiri yang memberikan batasan tentang apa yang dia mau teliti. Itu namanya limitation of the study. Dia tidak mau keluar dari apa yang dia inginkan. Itu. Kemudian yang kedua biasa disebut dengan delimitation, ada D di depannya, DE, ya, delimitation. Delimitation itu adalah rintangan yang akan dihadapi yang tidak mungkin diatasi oleh peneliti. Dia sudah membayangkan bahwa dia tidak mungkin mengatasi masalah yang dia sudah bayangkan akan dihadapinya. Makanya disebut delimitation. Jadi bukan dia yang membatasi dia, bukan dia membatasi penelitiannya, tapi konteksnya itulah yang membuat dia tidak mungkin dia melakukan hal tersebut. Misalnya saja, kalau dia mau meneliti tentang kemampuan membaca dan hubungannya dengan vocabulary, tetapi dia tidak akan mungkin mencakup wilayah lebih luas. Padahal ini dia mau melihat hubungan antara membaca dan vocabulary pada level SMP. Akan tetapi karena cara untuk melihat ini dibatasi oleh konteks yang ada sekarang ini, misalnya dia hanya bisa melihat kemampuan mereka itu melalui pengukuran yang sifatnya itu online misalnya. Itu tidak bisa lagi, dia tidak bisa berbuat apa-apa lagi karena itu dia dibatasi oleh konteks yang ada, kondisi yang ada. Namanya delimitation. Batasan dari penelitiannya yang bukan dia yang memberi batasan, tapi karena situasi konteks dan lingkungannya, situasi kondisi dan semuanya yang tidak memungkinkan dia untuk berbuat lebih dari yang dia bisa lakukan itu. Biasanya itu. Jadi kalau disebutkan scope of the research baru Anda menyebutkan batasan-batasan yang seperti apa atau ruang lingkupnya itu yang biasa disebutkan di tesis kalian itu, di skrip kalian itu kan dilihat dari segi keilmuannya, ini masuk dalam bidang applied linguistic. Kemudian apalagi dari segi ada beberapa yang dilihat ya, yang saya ingat itu yang sering disebut itu bahwa penelitiannya itu masuk dalam bidang applied linguistic. Itu kan sebenarnya bukan scope yang membatasi dirinya sendiri, tapi itu adalah relevansi penelitiannya dengan bidang ilmu misalnya. Karena itu ada di panduan, itu yang disebut ya, silahkan saja, tidak ada masalah. Bagaimana Rahmawati? Membatasi itu harus kita sendiri yang melihat ya.
Yes, iya Prof. Makasih, thank you.
Oke, yang berikutnya. Kalau ada. Oke, hal lain yang saya sebut di awal itu adalah karena kalian sudah harus mulai menulis. Masih banyak juga yang salah dalam hal mengutip ya. Jadi untuk cara pengutipan ini dan cara menuliskannya itu nanti boleh dilihat masing-masing pada video pembelajaran yang sudah dibuat ya. Nanti saya kirimkan melalui WA. Ditonton dulu bagaimana mengutip ya. Di situ disebutkan ada 2 cara pengutipan, kutipan langsung dan kutipan tidak langsung. Dan masing-masing itu ada namanya in text citation ada parenthetical citation, ada narrative citation. Nanti dilihat di situ dan bagaimana caranya berdasarkan panduan dari APA, American Psychological Association, yang saya kira itu juga yang dituliskan, yang dirujuk oleh panduan kita dari UNM. Ada rekaman, ada YouTube yang bisa dilihat. Nanti saya kirimkan linknya untuk bisa dilihat masing-masing. Ada 2 video pendek, masing-masing belasan menit. boleh dilihat di situ untuk bisa menulis dengan benar ya. Yang berkaitan dengan kutipan ini juga saya kira banyak bisa diakses, silahkan saja cari di internet. Tapi ada cara pengutipan yang masih ini katanya dengan bahasa masih banyak yang keliru. Banyak yang menulis tidak menggunakan kalimat yang efektif, bahkan kadang-kadang ungrammatical. Banyak yang menulis ini bukan hanya S1, S2 pun bahkan S3 pun masih banyak yang keliru itu di draft proposal mereka, bahkan di tesisnya. Kalau menuliskan penulis yang kita kutip, berarti penulis itu menjadi subjek kalimat. Penulis itu yang menjadi subjek kalimat. Nah, tapi kalau kita membuat keterangan lebih dahulu, berarti belum ada subjek kalimat itu. Jadi kalau mengutip misalnya, kita mengutip tentang Jeremy Harmer, kita menuliskan Harmer dalam kurun tahunnya 1986 balas kurung, itu langsung kata kerjanya bisa, karena itu sudah ada subjek, yakni Harmer menjadi subjek. Harmer 1985 recommends that when you are making vocabulary test, you have to consider the meaning, use, and word grammar, for example. Itu benar. Jadi ada subjek, yakni penulis yang kita kutip menjadi subjek, kemudian langsung bisa predikatnya, kata kerjanya. Yang banyak salah itu kalau menggunakan keterangan. Ya, menurut Hammer, according to Hammer, itu belum subjek ya. Dia hanya keterangan saja. Menurut Hammer dalam kurun 1986, langsung disebutkan di situ, states, recommends, asserts, suggest, dan seterusnya. Itu keliru karena according to itu bukan subjek, tapi dia adalah keterangan, hanya modifier saja. Sehingga dia tidak boleh dijadikan subjek. Maka kita harus membuat subjek untuk kalimat kita itu. Jadi according to Harmer 1986 baru kita membuat subjek yang baru. There are 3 aspects of vocabulary mastery. Jadi ada there are itu menjadi subjek kalimat ya. Jadi jangan langsung predikatnya di situ. Itu yang paling banyak keliru yang menggunakan keterangannya. Jadi ini nanti dilihat di video yang saya kirimkan itu untuk bisa diikuti bagaimana cara mengutip dan menuliskan kutipan tersebut. Oke, yang terakhir ini ya. Untuk menulis latar belakang ini kalian punya waktu 2 minggu. 2 minggu ke depan dengan judul yang sudah didaftar itu, kalian sudah harus menyelesaikan background-nya ya sampai di pertanyaan penelitiannya ya. Dengan ya kalau disebutkan yang kita bahas tadi itu harus bisa menunjukkan yang pertama itu gaps itu. Apa yang sudah diketahui, hasil penelitian terdahulu seperti apa, dan yang kamu mau dapatkan seperti apa, jadi kelihatan gap-nya. Kemudian Anda bisa menjelaskan pentingnya isu yang Anda mau teliti itu. Pentingnya isu itu. Kemudian Anda bisa menggambarkan kira-kira sumbangan dari temuanmu nanti itu seperti apa terhadap bidang ilmu kita ini. Jadi sumbangannya itu bisa dilihat dari segi pelajar, guru atau praktisi, penulis materi, kemudian pengambil kebijakan, kemudian teori sendiri. Ya, kalau Anda membahas tentang motivasi, berarti adakah sumbangannya temuanmu nanti terhadap perkembangan teori mengenai motivasi dalam belajar bahasa Inggris. Jadi bisa saja Anda menunjukkan nanti hasilnya akan seperti apa dan itu akan memberikan kontribusi terhadap pengembangan teori-teori yang berkaitan dengan variabel Anda. Jadi itu waktu 2 minggu, kemudian 2 minggu yang akan datang itu sudah harus di submit, dan ada beberapa yang akan diminta untuk presentasi. Presentasinya tidak semua, nanti dilihat jika ingin berlatih untuk menyajikan, karena Anda akan menyajikan proposalnya pada saat seminar proposal, nanti kita sepakati apakah ada rekaman yang diberikan dengan videonya ya, video rekaman dari penyajian yang berkaitan dengan latar belakang saja. Jadi Anda membuat PowerPoint-nya, kemudian Anda mencoba menyajikannya dan direkam, kemudian itu yang akan kita lihat supaya bisa nanti dalam seminar proposal yang sesungguhnya ketika Anda sudah mau meneliti, itu sudah ada pengalaman dan Anda sudah bisa memperbaikinya, di mana kekurangan PowerPoint-nya, slide-slide-nya maupun cara penyajiannya, itu bisa kita lihat. Oke, ini comments or questions, ini tugasnya ya, jadi menulis latar belakang. Saya berharap jumlah artikel yang dibaca itu tidak hanya seperti dulu, karena saya minta hanya 20, itu bisa lebih dari itu. Jangan batasi, tapi carilah sebanyak-banyaknya untuk bisa menunjukkan apa saja yang kita sudah ketahui mengenai variabel yang Anda mau teliti dan apa kesenjangan yang ada. Kalau tadi missing link atau gaps. Ada komen untuk tugas ini dan oke, cara penulisan referensi juga nanti dilihat di video itu. Ada 2 video singkat, nanti bisa dilihat. Supaya nanti di tugasnya itu sudah memang masuk daftar pustaka yang sudah dibacanya. Sudah ada yang pernah ikut latihan Mendeley menggunakan program untuk penulisan referensi? Mendeley atau Zotero? Belum ada ya? Tidak ada yang berusaha untuk membuat satu workshop kecil, kemudian berlatih untuk menggunakan Mendeley supaya bisa bagus. Maksudnya itu kalau menggunakan Mendeley, semua yang kita kutip dalam tulisan kita itu pasti ada di referensi daftar pustaka. Kejadian sekarang ini biasanya ada yang ditulis dalam tulisannya itu di background, literature review, methodology, ditemuan nanti. Ada kutipan-kutipan tapi ketika dicari daftar pustaka tidak ada. Nah, kalau menggunakan program, misalnya Mendeley atau ada di Microsoft Word juga ada dokumen referensi itu bisa kita gunakan itu tidak akan mungkin ada yang tertinggal. Semua yang kita kutip pasti ada di daftar pustaka. Nah, itu untungnya ya, memudahkan kita, tidak perlu mengecek satu-satu. Itu untuk referensi. Oke, ada yang mau bertanya atau komen? Saran? Tidak ada. Oke, kalau tidak ada, you may check your group. Saya akan kirimkan link untuk melihat video yang berkaitan dengan citation and referencing. Saya kira cukup ya untuk saat ini. Silahkan melihat video tersebut untuk bisa mengikuti. Dan ketika mengutip nanti, baik kutipan langsung maupun kutipan tidak langsung, sudah bisa sesuai dengan panduan APA itu.
Prof, maaf, absennya lewat mana, Prof?
Ada yang absen di Sam Oke, harusnya bisa di Sam Oke. Tidak ada.
Bagus, Prof.
Belum.
Belum bisa saya akses webnya, Prof.
Saya sudah perbaiki dan itu sudah bisa, harusnya sudah bisa. Saya sudah mencoba sebagai mahasiswa dan saya bisa.
Dari
Ya.
servernya, Prof. Dari web Syam-OK-nya yang memang susah diakses.
Oh,
Iya,
begitu.
Prof.
Kalau begitu saya screenshot dulu ya.
Oh, iya.
Boleh
Ya.
Iya, Prof.
boleh tampilkan wajahnya. Jadi wajah dengan nama muncul, itu akan bagus. Ini saya lihat halaman 1 dulu. Okay, thank you. This is the first screenshot. And then I move to halaman kedua. Untuk daftar. Okay, everyone is not on the screen yet. Ya, nama ada. Nur Afia, Sri Rahayu, Rika, Dewi. Ya, muncul Nur Afia. Kemudian Nurul Husna. Ada namanya, belum ada wajah, tapi tidak apa-apa. Saya screenshot saja.
Mohon maaf, Prof. Jaringan
Oke.
saya kurang baik.
Oke. Saya kira saya asumsikan begitu saja. Asumsi saya bukan Anda tidak hadir ya.
Iya,
Thank you.
iya, Prof.
Okay, I will thank you all. And once again, I want you to take good care of your health once again. Walaupun Anda membaca dan bekerja keras, menulis background ini dengan keras, ya bekerjalah dengan cerdas supaya tetap sehat. Saya kira itu saya akhiri. Silahkan melihat di WA link untuk video yang akan dilihat. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof.
I will first of all take a look at the once again. Kenapa hilang satunya?
Sehat-sehat Ki, Prof.
Thank you. Allah.
Prof, tadi mata kuliah statistik tidak dimajukan lagi, Prof, karena kemarin ketinggalan, Kak, gara-gara
Ya,
bentar, Prof.